African leaders aren't afraid to confront Western media head-on. In this video, we're showcasing powerful moments when they shut down biased reporting and challenged unfair narratives. Watch as these leaders demand respect and set the record straight, proving that their voices cannot be ignored. Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame discusses the importance of strong partnerships between Africa and the United States, emphasizing how beneficial collaboration could be for both sides. He highlights the challenges faced by smaller nations like Rwanda when trying to establish consistent relationships with larger countries. For instance, when Rwanda sought to develop its textile industry and reduce imports of used clothes, lobbyists in the U.S. influenced policymakers to remove Rwanda from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. This action punished Rwanda for trying to strengthen its economy. Kagame notes that while Rwanda has benefited from U.S. initiatives like PEPFAR, which helped build its health systems, there are still significant barriers. He points out that the U.S. is one of the few countries that has refused to recognize the genocide against the Tutsi, complicating the relationship further. This lack of acknowledgement creates an unpredictable environment for Rwanda as it tries to engage with the U.S. He advocates for a more respectful partnership where African nations can assert their sovereignty and decide their paths forward, rather than having others dictate terms.
Somebody should find that associating with Africa is beneficial. And for example, Africa and the United States, if they worked together, it would benefit both Africa and the United States than when you have Africa dealing with individual countries or ignoring them altogether. But for small countries like Rwanda, it's very difficult if you look at Rwanda as a small country in isolation and not in the context of the continent. So it is difficult to maintain a predictable, consistent relationship as Rwanda and the United States. Because within the United States, I'll give you quickly an example affecting Rwanda already. You know, we used to be eligible to AGOA, African Growth Opportunity Act. And then when Rwanda wanted to grow its textile industries, and therefore reduced on the flow of used clothes into Rwanda, some lobbyists, people who are benefiting in the United States from this trade, and by the way, the used clothes, most of it would come from China. And they were selling it to Africa. They have been doing that, and they were selling those clothes to Rwanda. And when we wanted to grow our industries, so the lobbyists who were benefiting from this used clothes trade actually influenced the powers that be in the United States to strike off AGOA Rwanda so that we came under punishment for just doing that, for wanting to grow economy. So you can see a small country trying to grow its economy, its industries, and has to deal with this situation, then there is a backlash, and we have suffered for that. Of course, there are exemptions. In the past, we have seen PEPFAR that we benefited from greatly, and that's how Rwanda built its health systems. And even that helped us to actually deal with the current pandemic because we established those strong systems, and we were using support from the United States. So, but at the same time, United States also, and that affects Rwanda, is one of the two countries in the whole world that refused to use, say, the terminology that was agreed by everybody in the United Nations, referring to the tragic events that happened in our country as genocide against the Tutsis. And we have never understood why, because we even entered into arguments and said, well, if you are talking about Holocaust, you are talking about the Holocaust of the Jews. You are not talking about everybody who died during that period when the Jews were being killed under the Holocaust. So, but for some reasons which they have not even explained, they prefer to say, no, yeah, you know, some other people died. We went into arguments, but United States comes out, imagine powerful United States as it is, and is arguing on this non-issue that has been sorted out at the UN. We cannot understand what is behind it or who benefits from it. So this creates an atmosphere of unpredictability, and that's how it becomes difficult for Rwanda, therefore, to predict what is going to happen going forward in terms of relationship. We suffer from one fact that there is so much talk about sovereignty, but you find either we don't qualify to have these sovereign rights. Every other person across the world wants to decide either for Rwanda or decide for Africa. And therefore, the best thing is to let Africa and Rwanda be partners with developed countries, powerful countries, and Rwanda or Africa, therefore, decide on what we want for us, ourselves going forward. For example, and we are just reminded by this pandemic, when you find that countries are suffering because they do not have health systems built in a manner that will serve them when such a pandemic strikes, therefore, that means we need to build our health systems. We need to look at climate change that affects us. We need to look at growing our industries. And the United States has a lot to offer in these areas to make Rwanda and Africa be able to stand on their own and strong as partners of the United States. So this is what we would ask any government, any administration of the United States. And I think it has been there for decades as we know it.
Uhuru Kenyatta. In a speech, Uhuru Kenyatta expressed his frustration with Western news outlets like CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera, which he claims consistently highlight the negative aspects of Africa. He noted that when these networks cover incidents in various African countries, they often end their reports by identifying their location as Nairobi, Kenya. This association leads to a skewed perception of the continent, reinforcing stereotypes of violence, famine, and instability. Kenyatta emphasized that this portrayal undermines the positive developments in Africa and ultimately shaped his decision to stop watching these news platforms.
Every single day, right? It's the negative aspects of Africa that are brought out there. I keep telling people, sometimes, you watch news, which I've stopped watching, because, and you find Al Jazeera, CNN, Sky, BBC. So they're talking about something that has happened in Rwanda, in South Sudan, in Ethiopia, in Somalia. My friends, sometimes even as far away as Nigeria on the other side of the continent. And then when the guy is signing off, this is John White reporting from Nairobi, Kenya. I like, so everybody now, when the thing that sticks in their mind, Nairobi, Kenya is where Boko Haram lives and thrives. You know, is where there is hunger and starvation. Is where there is, I don't know, because the only is Nairobi, reporting from Nairobi, Kenya. The story is forgotten, it's just Nairobi, Kenya. So,
let us know in the comment section what you think of the video. That wraps up the video for today, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to Insight TV, leave a thumbs up, and of course share the video. Until the next time, see you in the next video.